Hello and welcome to another edition of GH Dirty Deeds. I'm your host, James Law Jr. here on JLJ Media, my online network. Now, I love bringing you all kinds of GH content. This person had a small role, but he had camera time. I was like, and because of that camera time, I was like, who's that? And I looked him up. Turns out he has a lot. Because let me tell you, besides being an actor, of course, he's also a director, choreographer, dancer. He's been on Broadway. He's been around everywhere. He's also a former Mr. Costa Rica. Okay, Mr. Costa Rica.
Wow, you went way back.
I went way back. And hottest male trainer in 2014. So I'm like, he's done stuff.
Wow.
So Byron Quiros is here. Byron, woo!
Yay! Thank you for having me. Yeah, you pulled it all out.
I did. How does one become Mr. Costa? Because Costa Rica, that's a whole place. Like, how does one become Mr. Costa Rica? And you were young too. You were really young.
I was 19. Yeah, 19 when I did that. So at that time, that's when I thought maybe I'd go into modeling. I was doing a lot of dance stuff. Started doing some stage stuff. And train, but I wasn't at the place where I could just go out and do commercials and TV and that kind of stuff. So I was doing some of the modeling thing, and through that world, I found out sort of about the quote-unquote contest, right? And so I ended up performing at an event, and at that event was sort of a former Miss Mexico herself and a judge and had her own organization and what have you. And so I got asked if I wanted to, represent the country of Costa Rica. And I was like,
you're Costa Rican American, right? You're Costa Rican.
I am Costa Rican, yeah. So that's essentially how that kind of came about. And, at any point in time that I can do anything to represent or, communicate for the Latin community, I'm all for it. I throw myself into there, and it was a lot of fun. Had a great time, and I certainly was, proud to represent Costa Rica. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's a rarefied thing to do pageants or things like that. It's a very, not everybody does one. Not everybody does that, and the fact that you represented, your culture, your home, one of your homelands, because America's a homeland also, but one of your homelands. That must have been very rewarding in many different ways, I'm sure.
Absolutely. It was, I grew up, so I was born here in the States, but I grew up, I was back in Costa Rica before I was even a full 1 year old, so I was back and forth all my life. I'd get most of my schooling here and then go out there in the summers and spend a couple months with my grandparents and family, whatever. So for me, I didn't even speak English till I was in kindergarten, really. So for me, it was just a natural step. And at any point in time that I could reconnect with my roots, family, represent, talk about film, do something, then I jump in with both feet, And so that was really sort of one of those things that I even though quote unquote a Mr. You always hear the Mrs. whatever. Universe America, USA.
Yeah.
A Mr. sort of thing was kind of like, even my friends and family were like, you're going to do what?
Right.
It was sort of like, no, but this is what I'm going to get to talk about our community, essentially go out and represent, do shows, whatever. And that really was the focus for me. And so that was really the big reason why I did it. And of course, all the other stuff was just fun,
Yeah, that's very cool. And now in Costa Rica, have you done any acting down there or dancing down there?
No. I want to. I have interviewed with a few directors, but we haven't found the right project.
Okay.
And I would absolutely love to film, in Costa Rica or have Costa Rican directors, producers, actors, that kind of thing. So
it's a beautiful country. I told you before off camera. I've been.
Yeah,
it was beautiful. It's rainforest, beautiful. Beautiful people.
Yeah,
beautiful food. It was easy to get there. It was easy to get there.
Yeah.
I just don't know what their entertainment is like down there. Like in terms of other countries, I don't know. Do they have major entertainment?
By the way, am I looking at the right? I keep looking at you. Should I be looking up here?
Either one. I do both. I look at you. I look at both. It's totally up to you.
You're fine.
Everybody knows down there. Everybody knows how it is.
No. It's over the years. It's gotten so much better. like the artists that are up and coming are amazing. There's an established director who's been doing it for quite some time, and he's the one that I interviewed with literally about 20 years ago. So he's still doing it. He's still doing it big, and that's who I would like to work with. You know, he's sort of the big director in the country, and everyone knows who he is, and he's had films go to international film festivals and that kind of thing. So, but listen, you know, Costa Rica is a proud people, and there's a lot of talent there. If anything, I'm the one that has to step up my game in terms of, you know, because obviously it probably would be a Spanish product or film or project. I'd have to step it up a little bit in terms of, you know, because they still call me the gringo there. Like I go, and even though I'm Costa Rican and I have family there, they're like, oh, el gringo, you know. or the funny thing is, you know, at any point in time, if like something needs to be bought or ordered or reserved, my family goes, let me do the talking. You just
you're right. Exactly.
I'm like, but I miss your Costa Rica, man. They're like,
hello. It should mean something. It should mean something. I don't know what's going on. That's actually very, it's very cool. Is there a huge dance community down there?
You're talking like folklorico, or are you talking?
Yeah, like that's one of the styles. Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The dance community is large. The folklorico dancers, like, they have their holidays and they come out in like full force from literally like 5-6-year-old beautiful, you know, girls in these traditional or típico, that's what they call them, dresses, all the way through essentially like, you know, the older ladies. And so it's a very festive sort of time whenever they can get to dance. And I grew up with, you know, I don't know. How long is this interview, by the way? Are we doing like 6 hours?
Yes, exactly. As long as you want it to be. That's right. As long as you want it to be.
I grew up with a mother who, and I know we'll probably get into this because you might ask, well, how did I get into dance, whatever. But I grew up with a mother who literally, from the moment I can remember, was dancing at home. Okay. So she wanted to become a professional dancer. You know, her upbringing and parents necessarily, you know, did encourage that. But she could have easily gone into to do it professionally. But instead, you know, and she competed in salsa, merengue, and all that kind of stuff, things like that. But I grew up with watching a woman, you know, who was super sexy, would literally, to clean the house, would, you know, put on outfits, was putting on music that was like salsa and hot and whatever, and was dancing around the house. And that's what I thought, like, oh, everybody's mother's like this, you know. So I'd show up to, you know, my friend's house, and I'm like, where's the music? Where's the, like, it's so quiet here. And their mother would come out, and I was like, oh, my mom doesn't look like that, you know. And I'm like, and so then the funniest story is my friends started coming to my house, and, you know, and my parents divorced when I was 10, and so my mom even stepped it up a notch from there. And my friends would come over, and they're like, dude, your mom's hot. And I'm like, okay.
Oh, great. Sure.
And so at any point in time, they're like, dude, can we come over to your house? I'm like, no, you don't want to come hang out with me. You just want to see my mom in like these short shorts, sexy long legs.
Around.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And so the point is, I kind of grew up with that environment. And so for me, that's what home is in a way, you know. It was sort of like this festive, beautiful kind of upbringing. Now that also, you know, and I say this because I talk about it a lot, also covered up a lot of essentially the trauma that I had from the divorce. And you know, I grew up in a very violent neighborhood, and so the music and the liveliness and the love that was at home also covered up a lot of other stuff, you know. So I think all that enriches who I am as a person now, as a man, as an artist, you know, and so it kind of just colors it all, right?
Yeah, no, I grew up, you know, with Latino. Half my family's Latino, of course, and grew up with playing Celia Cruz and Hector Lavoy and all that. I grew up with salsa, I grew up all that being played on Saturdays as you're cleaning. That's the same thing. Now we didn't dress up, but we were cleaning.
Yeah.
I still do. I
Oh yeah.
even when I'm watering my plants, I'll put on certain music, and I
Yeah.
see plants get all excited and they get all happy. So that's kind of what from my childhood I've kept that with me. So a little bit just you say that with that. So I mean, okay, so your love of dance must have come from that upbringing. Clearly, must have come from that.
Absolutely.
When did you decide or know that you could possibly make a living out of it? That to me, that's always the fascinating part. We like dancing. We all dance around. I could dance to you, whatever, blah.
Yeah.
But like deciding that I'm going to actually try this out and possibly make some money off of it.
Yeah, that's an interesting question because like many cultures we hear, the parents are always pushing their children to become doctors or lawyers or whatever.
Yes.
And I absolutely, my father, is a businessman. Well, he's retired now, but businessman, and everyone worked in the house. So there wasn't an actor, an artist, there wasn't that kind of thing. My family is artistic. Like my uncles in Costa Rica are architects, and they're very creative and what have you. And even my brother is extremely creative in his own right. Yeah. But no one ever thought that would be like a profession. And so when I started to kind of play around with the idea of like doing this professionally, at first I wanted to know if I even had the goods, right? So I in college is where I started taking classes and what have you, and you just start to hear, hey, have you ever thought of doing this professionally? Have you ever thought of like you could probably go to LA, New York, whatever the case might be, and do this professionally? And then I just started to get asked, and I had a lot of raw talent. I didn't have I didn't grow up in a dance class. I was an athlete, so I was well coordinated and I can move really well, but I had no training in the arts when I was a kid. And so all of that came late. Okay. 19 was kind of the pivotal age, like Mr. Costa Rica, and then I started all of a sudden going into taking Shakespeare, taking dance, and taking ballet and all that other stuff, which was really uncomfortable, by the way. But,
I'm sure. Oh my goodness, for sure.
I mean, to go from football pants to tights and slippers, and I'm like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, exactly.
But that's when I started thinking, I love doing this, and I love performing, and I love affecting people, and I just started to kind of get asked to do things, and that's when I finally made a decision, and I said, okay, I'm doing this full time. Talked to my family about it because, and they were like, "What, you?" I mean, God bless them; they support me, they love me now, but I had to prove myself that I could absolutely,
I'm sure.
earn a living as an artist. And so, I was in college, young 20s is when I finally decided I'm going to go for it. And but here's the crazy thing, James, is that and I talk about it. I don't know what it was at like 7 years old or something. There was a vision like I had. We kind of remember things as kids. And there's a lot that I don't remember because, again, I just blocked it out. I was sort of, from all the trauma. But I remember vividly seeing a camera, knowing kind of what that did, having lights, having a set. There was a vision. I had something at 7 or 8 years old where I clearly knew there's something here. I don't know what it is. I never had been in a class. And so I never forgot that. And I think that always sort of informed me and kept driving me to go seek that, and so that's why it never left me, and I eventually ended up finding it, or it found me, I guess.
Now, for you, has it always been, you said earlier you were creative, so you were taking acting stuff, you're doing dance stuff. Was it always about just, I want to go forward, make something work, whatever it is, as long as I'm creative? Has that been kind of the plan for you?
Something in terms of whether it was acting, dance, or modeling, or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. Was it because some people go and they go, I want to be this.
Yeah.
And they go for that. But sometimes this happens. Like they're going for acting, but they record one song, and all of a sudden they're a singer too.
Yeah.
And for you, it seems like to me you're a little more well-rounded. Like you're like, I can do these certain things, so I'm gonna go out and just see what happens. Like I'll take any of these that come. That's the kind of question I'm asking. Was that?
Yeah, no, I think I know what you mean. And I'll give you the short version of it. So the short version for me is most people don't believe I'm an introvert, you know, and most go, no way, you're totally extrovert, whatever. But I'm what you maybe classify as like an introvert with extrovert qualities, because I was really shy as a kid, and hence dance for me was my first language, my sense of communication, my sense of communicating with friends in the neighborhood. Because again, I grew up in a neighborhood with very violent homeboys, gangs, that kind of thing. But they all, first of all, respected me because I could dance, I could entertain, I could sort of like, I was just charming with them, I guess, on some level. So that was my way of like connecting. And when I had to talk, there was this, I don't know, I just sort of mumbled. I kind of was not very open with that. So dance was always there, and or movement, And the only reason why I thought modeling is not like, it's because I love fashion. It wasn't because I necessarily, wanted to like, yes, I love runway, and yes, it was movement, and I fully connected to that. But for me, it was more about the fashion aspect of things. And that also came from, my parents and my mom especially, just making sure that, when I was, that was, the fashion aspect was a way of how to express yourself, right? So I just started to connect into the modeling world because of that, but not because I wanted to necessarily, it was attractive to be a model, go international, but it was more about that. So when the dance thing really started to, I knew that I had that.
Okay.
And so that's what I was going for.
Okay.
I was really going for that. Was like, my goal was to dance with Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Madonna. Those three were like top of my list. Paula Abdul.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I'm dating myself here, but the point is,
that's my time period. That's my time period. So yes.
But the point is like, okay, that was my goal. That's what I really wanted, And so the other stuff just started to come in, meaning
the acting.
When I took a Shakespeare class because I figured I had to challenge myself to be able to speak, to talk. Because I would get on stage and all of a sudden they're like, open your mouth, like you're mumbling these words. But I always had a strong presence, right? I would show up in a room and they're like, oh, okay, this guy's got something going on. And then I would move or whatever. And, I was much bigger then in terms of like, again, just coming off of playing sports and football and that kind of thing. Yeah. So I always had a physical presence, but then I would open my mouth and literally I was, I tell this story, I was very nasal because I was kind of nervous. I would kind of talk like this a little bit. Like, I know. Whoever's watching this right now is like, who the hell is this dude?
That's weird. Okay.
How did he get on GH?
That's exactly.
But no, I'm an open book now, and if it could help anybody or someone's like, man, I understand that, whatever, that's kind of how I feel about it.
Love that.
So the point is, all that was just nerves, right? So I ended up really starting to get a handle on my craft of acting, my voice, and really starting to come into my own later than a lot of my, sort of fellow classmates who maybe had already acting under their belts, whatever. Yeah. What I had over them, though, was the movement, was the dance, was the anytime that came up, I was there. And I was blessed enough to just have, good, strong teachers in college to kind of put me through those steps too. So I suppose it was dance, to answer your question. It was dance that I was going for first. Then that kind of led me into acting naturally. And that's where I started doing more stage stuff and things like that.
So what has been your biggest dance gig?
Here in the States, I worked with Usher.
There you go. That's a big one. That's a big one. He's somebody, yes.
So I worked with him, and then Daniel Craig, who I think is out of England, right?
Yes, I know.
Yeah. And the goal of Madonna came really close.
Oh, really? Tell us, because Madonna was on VMAs last night. She's still the queen of pop. So tell us how close did you come?
So there's two artists. It was Gloria Estefan and Madonna were the two artists that it came down to. Between the hundreds of guys that showed up, it came down to two guys.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And the Gloria Estefan was more. So there was he had. And you know how it is with dancers. It's sort of a look as well, right?
Yes. Oh yeah.
And that guy had long hair. We were the same height, long hair, and they went with him. And the Madonna one, she likes, I'm like, as a dancer, I'm her type, right? Sort of muscular, shaved head, that kind of thing. And it was me, I'm 5'11", and there was another guy who was like 5'6", I think it was. Also shaved head, also muscular, like we could have been brothers. And the choreographer, Jamie King, came up and he goes, it's one of you two. And I was like,
oh my God.
Here we go.
Oh my goodness.
I know, you're just like,
Okay.
And, I think Madonna's 5'5". I think that's something like that. So in my head, I thought, okay, well, if she wants someone tall, it's me. And if she wants someone short,
it'll be him.
Yeah. So, it went that route, obviously. But that being said, I did get to tour with Ana Barbara, if you know who she is. She's from Mexico.
Yes, I know she is.
You do?
I do.
Awesome, yeah. So that's sort of one of the bigger Latin artists that I work with throughout the years.
Really?
And so that was a cool gig just to kind of, to work with her and travel with her a little bit and sort of get to know her,
So traveling.
Yes.
Are you a good traveler?
I don't like to leave home, if that's what you're asking.
You said you're introvert. So when you have to go on the road, are you like, give me my hotel room, everybody leave me alone until like that you?
Yeah, that's okay. So when I was younger, yes, there was this kind of thing where I wanted to go explore the world, but there was just a lot of anxiety about doing that for some reason. And again, I kind of go back. That would be a whole different podcast, or YouTube or whatever interview. But we all go through stuff as kids that kind of obviously conditions us to.
They do. It does.
So there was a lot that I had going on when I was younger. That if I look back at it now, I'm like, wow, I actually did okay given some of that trauma that I. And one of those things was sort of this anxiety of like leaving home for some reason because it was all just going to go away, right? Like some kind of crazy notion I had like that, or something was going to happen, whatever the case might be. But I did travel a good amount, and so where I did travel, once I get there and I'm fine and I connect with like the local people and the food's flowing, and I'm like, I'm good, man. I can stay here. It doesn't matter where it is.
The food, of course.
Yeah.
Hello, I can eat my way. Yeah, around the world. Yes.
So I've gotten to travel a little bit, and that's good. It's more, I think, about sort of like being out in just massive amounts of unknown people or places or whatever, and there's an excitement about that. But there's also like, okay, I do like home, and I do like sort of feeling, like I know who's next to me and that kind of thing. Now it's open, man. I'm so excited for life. Yeah, right now it's all changed. I mean, there's been a lot of, self-work that I've done to the point where I'm just really excited. I'm excited for what's coming. I want to travel, and so I do love home. I do love a strong home, and I do like being kind of quiet in there. But I'm also like hungry. I'm hungry to explore, to experience, to even this right here, because I was like, well, okay, who's James?
Right, who's he? Like, what am I talking to him for? Who's he? I'm everywhere. If you look me up, I'm everywhere. So
yeah, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this dude knows a bunch of people I know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've been around, Byron. I've been around.
And so immediately there's like, I kind of just feel comfortable with this guy, so it's sort of that kind of thing, I think.
Because we have message and we had a great back and forth. It was like it was very just like, okay, I'm like, this guy is cool.
Yeah, no, I'm ready. I'm like wanting to travel, wanting to explore, and so it's kind of exciting. I'm excited about life right now, for sure.
So I actually have a podcast about mindset. You should come on that podcast one day. We should talk about that and go into that. If you want to go into that and share your experience about overcoming trauma, because everyone has trauma. We realize that now. Everyone has it. That's a whole other. That's right. It's a whole other podcast. I have one. We'll talk about that later. We'll get that going. But you're also in my girl Sheila E's video. You get to play Sheila Escovedo. And you get to play her love interest in a video called Lovely Day.
Lovely Day.
I mean, Sheila E is a legend, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously, she's a drum legend, she's a percussion legend,
Yeah.
a legendary family. Tabales, all that. So she's really good at that. But also, she's Prince's person and having Prince world. And so, I mean, so how did that happen? How was that?
Yeah, man. Sometimes I forget some things that I do with some people, you know.
That's why this interviews remind you. We go over your. This is your life, Byron.
Yeah,
your life.
yeah. This I sometimes forget. I've done some pretty cool things with cool people, and I'm proud of them. I just sort of, I kind of forget about it. But
you're busy working. You're busy trying to get stuff going. You don't have time to sit around and think about your.
Yeah. Sheila. She's first of all, she's one of the coolest people I've met. She's just really down to earth, very family oriented. And part of me, I think, was like, oh, this is Sheila E. And the other part is like, oh, it's just Sheila E. Like, it was sort of like this kind of, that's how I was able to kind of go into it, But she knew someone from a former manager that I had. And so she called directly the owner of that management company and said, hey, listen, I'm looking for, I think she said a hottie who can like dance and move and something like that. I don't know what it was. That's what my manager said, and I was like, okay. She goes, I sent her like 3 pictures, and she goes, that dude right there, and it was like that quick, right? And so then I had a brief sort of interview with her, and that was it, done. It was sort of like, okay, let's do this, You
are a hottie because here's the thing, I used to be bald. I used to have a shaved head. Shaved head men can look good too, folks. I think that's the thing. I'm always, I grew my hair out right now. I'm probably going to do it again at some point, but I feel solidarity with you. Shaved head and bald headed men can look good. They can be hot too.
Well, thank you. 2004 is when I shaved it all off.
Okay.
And I was nervous as hell. I mean, I had seen my head shaved before because playing football or whatever. Yeah. So I knew at least my head wasn't all,
You have a nice shaped head. You have a nice shaped head. Some people don't have nice shaped heads.
Yeah. No, so I love it. I don't think I could ever go back to anything.
It's easier.
Yeah.
I mean, I just hair out. I'm like, I'm probably gonna shave this soon because I'm like, I just did it for fun, just for whatever. But I remember having a shaved head. It's cooler when it's hot. Nothing trapped in your hair.
You definitely got to protect, because you can burn easily.
Yes.
Or you can, at first, you can get colds because it's one of those things you either get hot or cold. But now it's good, But here's when I knew all of a sudden, like, oh, there's a thing for shaved men, like bald head. Like, I had straight up strangers coming up to me. This is way years ago, and either asking, "Can I just touch the top of your head?" or not even asking, like, it's just like the older, lovelier women who.
Oh yes, they'll do. Yeah, they'll.
Yeah, and they're just like, I just had to do that, and I'm like, okay, can I at least get a drink or something?
Yeah, hello, take to dinner or something, or like call me, say hi to you first. No, but there is. I mean, now
it's a thing.
It was not a thing for a long time. It was almost ashamed to have a shaved head, or it was weird to have it, or you're gonna be mean. But no, like shaved heads are in. They're in.
It changes everything, though. Like, I mean, have you had a shave like for a while?
No, so my head was shaved mostly until 6 months ago. I grew it out. My head's been shaved. If you look at all my old pictures, it's always shaved or close. Yeah. And so my whole world is always a shaved head, goatee. That's a certain look two people like.
Yeah.
A very certain look. So I had that for years. I had that look, but I decided to go with that like 6 months ago. But normally I'm shaved head.
Well, I mean that looks really good on you. So kudos on that. But when you have a shaved head, you literally you feel naked. Like
yes.
I don't feel that now, but I'm saying when I first did it.
Yeah.
And you have nothing it's all eyes. They're looking at your eyes.
Yes.
It's right here. Yes. There's nothing else to look at other than that. So that's, I had to go through like a little while where I was like building a whole new sense of who I was, new confident self, kind of the way I moved, all that stuff. And again, everything goes back to movement. How did I move, right? How did I sort of come across? How did I walk into a room? That kind of stuff. And so it was one of the best things I did, though. And my agent at the time, I had an agent at that time, and she freaked the hell out. she's like, what are we going to do now? Like, commercial agent. And I was like, just wait. Not kidding you, James. That same week, booked the commercial.
Well, there you go. Well, you know this. Part of it in Hollywood, and when I say Hollywood, that means just entertainment. It could be anywhere, New York, Hollywood, whatever.
Yeah.
You have to stand out sometimes. You have to find a way to be slightly different than anybody else, because you could be the same brown guy with the same hairstyle, like 10,000 of them in a certain area. So it's kind of like, well, what can I do that's a little bit that can still be flattering, but also make me stand out a little bit? So for you shaving your head was probably new for people. Like, oh, this is new. It's like, oh, okay. And you stood out. You stood out. I mean, it's, and they got wigs and stuff. They can put hair on if they had.
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, I've done projects where I had wear a wig and stuff, and I actually get to enjoy that now because I can really. Yeah. But, which, by the way, they don't have a shaved character on GH, do they?
They don't.
Mark, I'm telling you.
My buddy Mark Tessner. I love Mark. Mark Tessner loves actors. We're gonna talk about that.
We'll talk about him for sure, because I do want to talk about Mark. He's an amazing man. But I was thinking about that. I'm like, they don't have a shaved character on GH, on General Hospital, and and who's even Latino, right? So like, just saying, there's something there.
Because the closest would be Donnell Turner, my buddy Donnell, who plays Curtis. Yes. It's shaved. Sometimes there's hair in there. Yeah. It's like it's he's the only one possibly. All the rest have hair. Everybody else has hair. Yeah. So he's the only one. I would say that.
Yeah, and it is one of those things. I don't go out where a bunch of guys look the same. Like, it's either they want to see me or they don't want to see me for a project.
Sure.
Period. And it's more clear. I'm not like before. I did feel like I was sort of part of the herd, Well,
I want to ask you another question, because you do look really good. I couldn't tell what age you are. I mean, you look fine. So, in terms of that, is that hard these days to get jobs, or is it getting? Because I know friends of mine who are like, they're between 35 and 45, whatever. They're saying it's hard to get work because it's like I look like it's an in between stage or something. I'm just wondering for you, how's that working out for you?
It's working out well.
Okay.
For me. And I've always taken care of myself, but one thing that I didn't want to hear when I was younger, and I think it just had to do, again, with my energy, my sort of where I was, all my representatives back then, all of them, when I was 25 or whatever, they were like, you're going to work when you're actually way older.
Oh, got it.
And I was like, but I want to know. I'm just 20. I'm like, you're just fresh in LA. You like want to work now, whatever.
Right, of course.
But they all said, you just wait. When you're older, 20 years from now, like you're gonna work a lot.
I can see that.
And they're right. Like all of a sudden now, there's just this, there's this maturity. There's a sense of confidence. There's a sense of like, man, this is what it is, and I'm not competing against anybody else but myself. Yeah. And I love life, and it's more varied now. It's not, I love acting and I love dance, but it's not just that, right? There's a lot of other things I got going on that just inform and fill my life. So, and thankfully I've been able to, stay in pretty good shape, and, all the surgery that I've done, all the pulling, all the stuff.
I tell folks all the time, I sleep upside down with steaks. That's how I look. That's why I have no wrinkles. I'm 52 years old. I'm a grandfather of 4, and no one believes me. And I'm like, I am, but I sleep upside down. I drink virgin bat blood or something, and I just like hang upside down, and that's how I look young. I mean, I just all no wrinkles. That's how we do this. But no, living well and drinking lots of water. I tell you all the time.
Yeah, and I don't want to mislead anybody. Listen, I love wine. I love my good whiskey.
Me too.
Yeah, and I certainly eat. I've always eaten healthy, but I do tend to eat what I want. If there's a project that's very specific, then I absolutely will cut stuff out here and there. Yeah. But I think the big thing that we're not talking about here, and again, that's why I say, how much do we have here? It's for me, it starts from the inside, right? It's all your inner light. It's all your inner energy. It's how you think. It's how you walk, how you talk. That's really kind of where that, the youngness really sort of comes from, I think. It's that inner sense of happiness and love for yourself. And, I'm not trying to sound cliche here or any of that kind of stuff, but that's really where it is, right? It sort of is that. And yes, I mean, I'm also blessed, thankfully, that, my genes are pretty good for my parents. I mean, everyone thought when I was 14, 15, they thought my mom was my girlfriend.
I can believe that. My mom looked young too. My mother has no wrinkles.
Yeah.
She looks no wrinkles. But my mom's youthful also. She's very youthful, very exuberant. So your mom's probably the same way. So
they all thought, oh, who's your boyfriend? She's like, that's my son. What is, and so, but no, I've taken responsibility for where I'm at now. And, last year was hard, I think, for everybody. And so I certainly went through a bunch of stuff myself. But I've also knew that I wanted to come out of it strong. And so it feels pretty good. Yeah.
Good. Okay, so now it's about General Hospital. For folks, like everybody, thanks for looking on. We want to get you to know him because here's the thing.
Like, man, come on!
I know folks will get there. We're getting there now. So, but here's the deal. What I wanted to do for everybody, what I do on this show a lot of times is I'm actually having Joyce Key on, who plays Phyllis on GH as a side character on there. She's on next week. So nice. So people don't know they don't know who you guys are. They see you and they're like, well, who are this guy? So I wanted to show people you're much more than just that September 3rd I saw you. And you got a lot of camera time because you were standing next to Homeboy. So I was like, Byron got some camera because that's very important, folks. You may not have like 10,000 lines, but like camera time. Someone goes, "Who's that?" You never know who's watching, and I'll go, "Who's that guy?" Because the Joey Novak guy, the guy who plays him, he has his beautiful blue eyes. His eyes
absolutely.
But you were near him. But you were near him. You were next to him several times when he was doing the whole drink thing. And I was like, so it made me go, who is that? And so the fans were like, who's that? And I said, well, so now I'm telling you, he has an outside life. He has a whole thing going on. And now, but I want to ask you, the first question is, do you have, I read somewhere, do you have a GH story that why this was so special to you? Am I reading
that? I do. Yeah. And first of all, I don't think I even have thanked you. Thank you for having me on, and doing this. It's pretty cool, especially because it is about GH, we keep saying GH, General Hospital.
Yeah, GH. I see my shirt. I got this from Frank Valentini. It says GH on it. So we know.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's fine. I work with them sometimes. So I get this stuff. So they gave me this shirt years ago. So yes.
So listen, my GH story is really, and I think I said it came full circle, right? So
I'm curious about that full circle moment. I love.
Yeah, because when I first came to LA, I was auditioning for a good amount of stuff, and Mark brought me in at one point in time, for I don't remember if it was a contract role or a guest star or whatever it was back then, but. I had gone into already, I'd worked a couple of shows, whatever, and seen some cast directors, and nothing, against them. But sometimes you go in and you just don't feel seen. You feel like next, or someone's like, hold on a second, I need to take this call, go ahead and start.
Right, I know, right. Go ahead and just do it. You're like, for you. Shouldn't you be?
Or they're finishing their lunch or something, right? There's something or you're in there with the assistant or something.
Yes.
And God bless them all, everyone works differently, whatever.
Yes.
But I was like, I just thought, okay, here we go again. But GH was also the first soap opera I auditioned for. And it was kind of big because in the Spanish world, novelas, right? Novelas are like the big thing at home. And my abuelita, mi mamá, like mi tías, they would all see the novelas. And I'm like, this is finally a chance for them to go, he's an actor. Legitimately, right? And so I go in and I'm prepared for this role, whatever. And Mark introduced himself and likewise, he goes, okay, so you ready? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And I was already expecting him to be fumbling with all.
Not Mark Tester.
That man, he was like, looking right at me, and he's like, go. And I was like, It totally just took me back. I was like, whoa, this is because my friend, I mean, obviously my fellow actors are like that because we're all like in it. He was there. He was there every second. He was giving it to me. He was emotionally involved. He was like intense with the eyes. And I was like, that was a whole different level of an experience I had with, a casting director. And that's why, Mark, I never forgot you. Because I was like, man, of course I want this role, but I just had an experience in there with like a casting director that I've never had before. And that's why Mark, I think, has the respect of so many actors, because he's prepared. He expects that of you, obviously, but he's prepared himself. And so many actors love that because you feel seen. You absolutely feel seen by, someone who is obviously the guardian of the job or whatever, but he goes beyond that. He gives you emotion. He gives, like, you're there, and I was like, wow, this is just incredible. And so, obviously I didn't get that part back then, but that never left me, and so every audition after that was like, it's kind of like when you like first date someone who's like
right.
you're in love with, and every other person you're like, no, that's not.
They're cheap irritations. I mean, Mark Teschner is, multi-Emmy award winning.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to say, I don't know how many years in the business. I mean, I've known him for about 6 years, so I've known him that long, and I've had friends take his courses, classes. They love him, and he loves actors. He does. Yeah. He's rooting. He actually is rooting for you.
Yeah.
About Mark Teschner, I've interviewed him several times over the years too on my shows here. But like, he's rooting for you. He wants you to succeed, but he wants the best person for the role too. That he does. That's why he's so good. But
yeah, and I mean, I've had some amazing experiences with other casting directors too. But he stands out because he was the first one for me that saw me. I think and it wasn't just about my physical appearance, and it wasn't just about me being able to move, and it was really truly like, well, first of all, I see you, and second of all, respect for the craft, and like you said, he loves actors and that kind of thing. And so that's why this time around, like, it took many years, since then.
So how did it come back to you? It was just another call, and you just
yeah, and I know that there's a lot of my friends are like, oh, finally series regular. That's totally what they're thinking when I put that post on. And listen, guys, I absolutely would love that, and as even Mark has said himself, like, you never know. We bring in people under fives or sort of a smaller role, and all of a sudden we make them into series regular. So, that's why I love hearing your story of when you first saw me on there, because I went to work that day like I was a series regular.
Yep, there you go.
I had to deliver, obviously, an under 5 line role, but I went in there thinking, this is my serious regular role right now. This is it, and not at all with like, any kind of whatever. It just was like, that was the respect that I had for that day, and it was. Well,
but see, Byron, the thing is, so they're associating you with the character who's reoccurring.
Yeah,
means you could reoccur too. Like, it's like you're one of his guys. You're one of the guys.
Yeah. So, that's what Casson told me. They go, Joey Novak keeps coming back to Port Charles. So they're like, Lisa, who's the assistant to Mark, she's like, you very well could come back. So, but yeah, this one came because I didn't have any representation for a couple of years. And so I now have, kick-ass management, with new managers right now, and they got me the call. So I went in there, and actually I didn't go in. This was over Zoom. It's the whole new way of how to audition.
Yes.
So yeah, this was over Zoom. I self-taped it and sent it in. Sent them 2 different takes or whatever, and then I just remember my manager blowing me up, going, and I'm like, God, he must really need something. He's like, congratulations. I'm like, for what? Because apparently he had already sent an email or something.
Wow.
And I didn't see anything. And so, of course, that was my full circle. Like, all of a sudden I just heard the gods of General Hospital.
So I love it. I mean, the thing is, and it was also a confrontation scene. It was like a partial fight scene. It was a bunch of stuff that went on that day, that scene that you were in.
Yeah, there was. I got makeup, which I don't even know how much of it you see, but yeah, I got makeup done and all that kind of stuff. But It was. I mean, obviously, for those who haven't seen the show, whatever, it's Joey Novak is sort of the nephew, right, to Vinny Novak or whatever, and that's
one of the five families.
One of the five families, right? And so Joey's hanging around Port Charles trying to do his thing.
Trouble.
And I'm sort of one of his right hand men or whatever, or his right hand man.
Yes.
And so there was this presence, in that fight against in the club or whatever, and so.
You fought against my buddy Steve Burton, and they're all there because I know Steve Burton who plays Jason. Bradford Anderson who plays Spinelli. I mean, I was like, I know them. They're my buddies. I know them. So you were.
Yeah, no, it was it was family. Like it felt like family there. And one of the costume person came out on one of the quick break or whatever, and she's like, I've been here for 10 years, and it truly is like a family. And I was like, it absolutely feels that way. Like it just sort of everyone was welcoming, everyone was on point. Obviously, you have to be prepared, and you got to you got to be ready to go. But it really just I felt so comfortable, and then we were done, and I was like, wait a minute, no, I want to keep filming.
You can't be done.
What else did I do?
I can't be in a scene over here, washing dishes, or so I can be over here. Can be a cop or something, or a security guard. Like, just keep me going.
Speaking of it, the bartender in that scene.
Yeah.
I don't recall her name, but dude, she looked like she can kick some ass.
I know. I was like, she could have jumped in.
Man, she's on point, muscular. I was like, this girl could literally throw a punch.
Yeah, she's always in the scene. She's there. So we see her several times, so she's there. But I say we could be easily back.
Yeah.
Easily.
Well, I certainly hope so. I'd welcome it, and I mean, because sometimes you work on projects and you're like, that was a little funky, whatever.
Yeah.
That day, and I don't say that just that day was awesome. That day was amazing, and I'd love to be part of that family, more in return, and and just sort of represent.
And how was and were all the protocols good? Were you able to? I mean, they I'm sure they had you test. I'm sure. For COVID.
Yeah.
The masking, I thought it was all good for you when you were there. You felt
so I was in Costa Rica. I was in Costa Rica for about 18 days. My father had open heart surgery out there, and so I was out there supporting him. And then I flew in on the 3rd to the 6th. That was August 6th, August 4th. I flew in like on August 2nd or something. 2 days later, I had a test, and then 2 days after that, I was already filming on set.
Okay, good.
So I had to obviously test to get into the States, so I already knew I was, pretty good. And the mask stuff, I mean, they were pretty strict about it. Obviously, don't take off the mask until camera starts rolling, whatever.
Yeah.
But none of that stuff bothers me. Like, I don't know. For me, I know a lot of people are up in arms about the mask stuff. Again, you're talking to someone who is, when I was a kid, shy, introverted, kind of to myself. To me, it's almost like I'm good in my little world.
Yeah, exactly. It's like works for you. You're like, this guy's all great for me. Normal day.
It doesn't. That doesn't bother me, and I never take that like and God bless people. Everyone has their opinion, but I never take that like this is my freedom's being taken away. It's just it's my own, like, I'm protecting myself, and I'm I have no problem with that whatsoever. So none of that bothered me on set, and they were pretty awesome about it, and.
But you got a chance to do what you want to do. That's the fun part. It's like, I'll put a mask on to be on General Hospital. Sure, if I have to wear a mask between scenes, just to be on General Hospital, I'll do it. I got no problem with that. I'll do it. It's fine. You know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of like you're getting to do something you love to do. You get to act. I mean, it's a win-win. To me, it's a win-win.
And it really started, for me, it started days before, but I already knew what that character would wear. Like, so, whether I should be saying this or not, but I was like, I showed up to costume or wardrobe, say costume like it's stage, right? Right. But I showed up to wardrobe, and she was like, "Oh, this is perfect. This is the guy."
Oh, okay.
And I was like, "Yeah, I thought so. So I thought, let me wear this and see what you think, And so, it just was magical. I don't know. It's magical. It's like I want to go back to Disneyland, right? Like,
yes.
Just want to go back.
I got to ask you. Did you give yourself a name?
Did I give myself a name?
Yes.
Interesting. I did not.
I was curious because there's no name. You were just an under
Like a first name. You're saying, right?
Yeah. Like you give yourself like
yeah.
That's
an interesting question. I didn't give myself a first name.
You're just man number 2 or whatever. Man number 1. Man. Number 2.
It was technically Novak's friend, is what it was. You know, whatever. Yeah, Novak's friend. But I was so in the again, because my background is in dance and movement and that kind of thing. I was so in the like how this guy stood and how he walked, you know, how he would look at people. I mean, the name almost didn't matter to me because it was more like a presence, right? And so, again, it was more about like, okay, how's this guy going to come across? Yeah. And so it was more, I was more living it than trying to like.
It makes sense.
Put a label on it, you know, kind of thing.
And also subs move fast. So you have to like, I'm sure you have to worry about blocking, and you think about the job, the technical parts of the job. You're like,
yeah. But I'd love to have a name. I'd love to have a
name. Come on, guys. Come on, Frank Valentini. Give a name. Give a name.
Yeah.
Give a name. I mean, call Marco or something. Call Marco or something. Marco. I think I don't know. I'm assuming. I'm trying to think what name would I don't know. What a good name for you? There's Sal or something. Is there Sal over here?
Something like that.
That's funny. That's. I just when I heard that you had a full circle one thing, I've had a few of those in my life, and I love that if we live long enough, that actually can happen sometimes. Especially in doing what we love to do. Whatever that is for friends, whatever that is for people, you could have some full circle or. You reached that point you wanted to go, and you got there, or you hit these little check marks, and you go, "I can check that off now because I did it." It's an amazing feeling. It's an amazing feeling. Nothing like it.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of those moments now.
Good.
You know, as I'm again older and just more wise and whatever. I'm having a lot of those sort of full circle moments, and it's just because I think I'm more relaxed, right? Like when you're younger, you're just kind of obviously everyone talks about what your 20s, 30s, and 40s are like, you know. And so it's sort of like when you're more relaxed and present and enjoying life, you just trust, you know. You have these moments that all of a sudden come in and you're like, wow, I understood why that happened back then or whatever, you know, or you recall something. And so that's why I think now you know, and you sort of hear sometimes in this industry a lot, oh, it's always about the young, like it's always about the younger ones, you know, the ones that just come up. But nah, man, I'm here to prove that wrong.
Me too. Yeah. That's right. Me too. That's right. We're not dead.
No, hell no. I'm here to prove that wrong. I'm excited. I'm ready to go. And I made some promises. I made a specific promise to a friend of mine who passed away. Right, she was a pretty well-known actress, you know, and I made a promise to her on her, you know, deathbed, if you will. And I could hear her saying, you gotta go do this now. Go do it, you know. And so I'm not going to stop, you know. And so I would be beyond grateful, you know, to be on General Hospital more, you know. But at the same time, I'm present, and I'm like, what's the next moment?
You're ready for everything. You're ready for whatever comes your direction. You're ready for it.
Yeah.
It is. He's like casting people. He's ready. He's ready.
He's ready.
Prime time, daytime, streaming services. Get him. Because I'm saying that. So I'm gonna timestamp it. You're gonna get even bigger, and I'm gonna message you one day, and you're like, James, I'm just too busy. I'm working.
I'm always gonna make time for you, James.
Okay, you better. I'm gonna follow your career. Now you got me in your life, so you're gonna follow your career. But I'm telling people I've had more success now in my last 12 years than my first 20. So I feel like it's a good time for us because we know who we are. We know who we are. All flaws and all, we know who we are now. Yeah. And I care less.
I also know. I mean, I did some research on you too, just so you know.
Yes.
I know that you were up north, right, and decided to come to LA, and you were like, you know, trying to decide what to do, and you know, and so I respect that because I was like, okay, this man, he's been around, and he's certainly questioned himself. Because there comes a point in time, you know, where you have to look at yourself in the mirror and go, what am I doing, right? So like, what is this about? Is it just about finances? Is it just about finding work? Is you have addictions or you don't have addictions, or an addiction is sort of like not fully committing to, that's an addiction. So it's sort of like you come talk about full circle. You come into like, you look at yourself and go, what am I going to do right now? And so I respect when I read your story, because I also had an article on Voyage LA, and I know you did.
Yes, we did. That's right.
Yes, you did. That you did that. You questioned. You were like, okay, I'm going to go for it, and you're hungry. And I can literally reading your articles, I was like, this man's hungry. Like he's just, and I appreciate passionate people. People who go for it, and so, and not only that, but really like are true to themselves, I think, and genuine. And so, kudos to you, because you've taken, you've done it, you're doing it, and you certainly have like. And feel free to, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like you shifted everything completely.
I did.
Right back around. And you were like, all of a sudden, it's scary to freaking be at like, whatever age, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, you see listen, I have so many successful friends and that decided to go their safe route or whatever, and have families and whatever, and married and all those things. And I was like, holy Lord, like, you just feel like, you feel like an outsider, and you're like, I don't have any of that stuff, But I've stopped saying that, because those are my close friends that I grew up with or went to high school with or whatever. And God bless you guys, because you guys are amazing. But I can't tell you how many times I get asked, like, are you in a relationship yet? Do you have kids yet? Do you have a home yet? Do you have all those quote unquote things, traditional things that everybody else has, And finally I've come to terms like, you know what? My life isn't traditional in many ways, right? And it didn't come for me like when I was younger. It's coming for me now. Yes. And now I'm able to receive it, and I fully understand it. It's not going to take me out, because so many people get success early on, it takes them out, and they become right? And they become someone else. And so, that's why I say I'm hungry now, because I know exactly what's happening. I know where I'm at. I know where I stand. I know what I stand for.
Same here.
I'm ready. You got me. I'm ready.
He's ready. He's ready. He's ready. He's ready.
He's got a bell over there.
He's got a bell. He's ready.
Okay. Yeah, congratulations to you too. No, seriously, much respect to you. Yeah.
No, I mean, I won an award several years ago, and I did a famous speech that went viral. And my ending was, "This is for the old guys." And that was I meant old guys in the sense that 25 and 30, life doesn't stop. I mean, it really doesn't. I think we're great examples for younger people that as long as you wake up every day, you always have a chance.
Yeah.
You have a chance. And my 80-year-old aunt, my 80-year-old Tia, her name is Faith. She said she has faith, but her name is Faith. She always says she still has dreams.
Yeah.
And I thought that's really interesting, because you think we're always taught at 65 you retire, and then you're just like, just go travel anywhere. Like, she's like, I still want to write that book. I still want to do that podcast. Like, at 80 years old, that to me is amazing. It's like, why should it stop? If you love what you're doing,
absolutely,
should you always want to have aspire to something? Should you always want to try something new?
Yeah.
Like, why should it stop? So I think you and I both, that's what we're doing. We're both excited about it. We're hungry for it. I crave it. I want new experiences. I want new stuff going on. I create a lot of things. I'm very creative musically, and I have things I want to do.
Yeah.
And I know that there are more years behind me than ahead of me, possibly, so to speak, if you think of it that way. I mean that in a positive way. So it's because now it's like, don't waste time.
Yeah.
Don't waste time now. Just go for it. Just try, go for it, see what's going on, observe, whatever. Just don't waste time.
Yeah, it takes discipline, right? It takes discipline and you have to make certain choices in your life in terms of like who you hang out with and what you do and who you spend time with and things like that, But that being said, I've experienced a lot in my life, and so all that has just informed me. I'm one of those believers of like, life is working for you, not against you, right? So it's like, yeah, the what ifs. You know, a lot of my friends that I started with in this industry 20 years ago, they're all series regulars. They're all, you know, have established careers, and God bless them, and they're very talented, you know, in their own right, and they have different looks than I do. It's just coming later for me, right? It's sort of the Morgan Freeman, you know, some of these guys who, Gene Hackman, right? The ones that kind of started.
Jackson, a lot of them were older when they got stuff.
Yeah, so
the thing is, you're one role away from that, basically.
Absolutely.
One roll away from a movie thing. You're one roll away from a stage thing. I mean, you're just one roll away, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's all you need.
Yeah, and it's not. And again, I said earlier, I love acting, I love dance. You know, but it's not just about that anymore, right? I'm an entrepreneur. You know, I've taught classes. I work with other artists with movement. You know, I'm actually, speaking of this, I'm going to start in pre-production for like a podcast YouTube thing that I want to do about movement. You know, one of my passions, which is wine, I'm getting more involved with that, you know, in terms of like making that into a business. So all that is informing the artist, you know, the actor, the dancer, the one that's in the limelight, because I can bring more of all that stuff into, you know, into it. And it's not just sort of about like, talk about yourself. And you're like, oh, I went to acting class and
right, and that's it. It's like, no, there's more behind that. That's why I wanted to interview, because I could feel there was more behind that. And so,
and I was always like that. Like I remember early on, you know, as a kid, I didn't always start strong. Like I didn't always start the fastest or, you know, was like the best at the sport. I was pretty good, but I wasn't the best. But when everybody else was already like had fallen, was taken out, whatever, count on me, because I would always finish. I always finish strong. Always finish strong. And I have endurance and I'm strength, and I'm like, that's where it's at right now, man. Hey, I'm finishing strong.
It's a marathon, right? That's what I always
say.
I've actually done marathons. I actually done marathons, so I do know. I know how marathons work. So I've actually done them. So they are. It's one of those things. Pacing is everything. Pacing is everything. It literally is. Byron, where can they find you on the interwebs? Where can they find you if they want to follow you?
So Instagram is my name, just Byron Quiros, and I have a website by the same, byronquiros.com. I don't do Twitter as much, but so those are the two main ones. Obviously, there's IMDb, and I do have a lot of people the past couple of years knew about, which you probably read about, Red Releve, which is a class I created. Yeah. So Red Releve is a class. There's also an Instagram. You know, it's RELEVE, Red Releve.
I'll put it in the description.
Yeah. So that was a class that I created for you know, community, and mainly obviously women that wanted to express themselves, like my mother. You know, that's why I brought her, express themselves and dance and be free in space. And so that right now is on hold because of what happened with the pandemic. You know, the studio was shut down, that kind of thing. But I'm seeing how I can bring that back somehow, you know, and kick that off again somehow. But before that opens up fully is where I'm going to do this podcast or YouTube about movement, you know, talk to other actors and artists and that kind of thing. And so, but Red Releve brings that all together in terms of like how movement, sensuality, sexuality. I love Fosse. I'm a huge like Bob Fosse. You know, we didn't really even get to talk about stage, but I love stage. You know, I love stage. I love traditional jazz, Fosse movement, burlesque. You know, like the musical Chicago. You know, I totally would play that.
Oh yeah!
I totally would play that character. I would fully play that character. I can do that. You know, so all that is what Red Releve is all about. So yeah, Red Releve, Byron Quiros website and Instagram, and yeah, I don't know what else to tell you. That's pretty much it right now. Yeah.
It's like I said, we'll have to do another show together at some point. We have always more to talk about. Of
course.
Because I didn't ask, because there's other things, they'll cut me off after a while if I keep talking. But Take Me Out, which I saw on Broadway, I'm wondering if I saw you in it. I wonder if you were in the show.
Did you see it in New York or in LA?
Oh, New York.
Oh, okay. So I was in the LA version.
Okay, so I didn't see you there, but I loved it. But it was something. But anyway, but you, Byron, thank you so much, and you're now a friend to the show, a friend to me. We will be in touch, of course. Still, go ahead and follow him, folks. Follow him. Anybody looking for somebody to hire him. Is here. He's ready. Please talk to him. Bring him in the room.
Reach out. Say what's up. Yeah. Say hello.
Yeah. See you in the room, whatever room that you have to do. Of course, this is GH30Ds, one of my most popular shows on my network. All the GH fans, thank you so much. All the GH Facebook groups, let me post this. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All the GH fans on Twitter, Instagram, thank you. We love talking to you. Our regular show, the GH Media Spotlight, is happening this Sunday, of course, on the 19th at 4 p.m. And I'm also talking, I said earlier, talking to Joyce Guy, who plays Phyllis on General Hospital this weekend also. Apparently, this week she's in trouble. So I saw the previews. So what's about that with her? And she has an interesting life too outside of this. So I love talking to people. It's been great. You can follow me, Raw James Lott Jr. Sold at James Lott Jr. on all social media platforms and TikTok. My TikTok star apparently. You can go and see what kind of shenanigans I'm doing on that platform. But I'm everywhere, folks. You can find me. Just type in my name. I'm everywhere. Take care, everybody. Be kind to each other and the village.